Okay, hello and welcome everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the assumptions we make about individual decision makers in economics. So I'm going to talk about optimizing, and I'm going to talk about incentives and the degree that incentives are important for behavior. So our standard assumption in economics is that our decision makers are selfish and rational. They're self-interested and then they're rational. Also, we're going to think about the ways in which we understand rational. We're going to think about the ways in which self-interest manifests itself in terms of the behavior that we're going to see. So my point here, economics is giving us a really good perspective that's going to allow us to be able to analyze the world around us. We're making assumptions though. We're making some assumptions about decision making in this case, and it's important to be careful to sort of enumerate and pay attention to these assumptions. We want to think about when they're good assumptions and when they're not good assumptions. There's a whole field of behavioral economics that suggests maybe we want to relax some of these assumptions. Turns out, on the other hand, that the assumption that decision makers are selfish and rational and that they're payoff maximizers actually tends to be pretty predictive. And so the basic model of economic reasoning is actually pretty good. That's why we continue to use it. What we're assuming, though, is we're assuming decision makers are self-interested, they're rational, they're purposeful. They're seeking after their interest in this sort of deliberate, purposeful manner. We're also expecting that this is going to unfold in the direction of trying to maximize each individual's well-being. We'll call this optimization. The basic idea with optimization is a consumer, a firm, a household, whoever is the decision maker, is trying to do the best they can given the circumstances. They're trying to select the best among one or many of their alternatives against the constraint of scarcity, right? Given the circumstances. In doing so, we're assuming people are responding to incentives. Now, we talked a little bit about some of what these incentives would look like earlier with marginal analysis. So if the marginal benefit is bigger than the marginal cost, that provides an incentive to do more. If the marginal benefit is less than the marginal cost, it gives an incentive to do less. Right? The idea is that people are going to respond to incentives that tip their behavior in their favor. Right? The basic idea is that small changes in the structure within which they're choosing can actually lead to pretty important changes in behavior overall. So even though we're making these assumptions, we're assuming people are selfish and rational, and I've told you this actually is relatively descriptive of how people actually behave, at least in the aggregate. People still could be impulsive. They could choose without being fully informed. They can make mistakes and all these sorts of things. One of the things that we're recognizing is, well, decision makers can and do practice what we'll call rational ignorance. Rational ignorance means, well, somebody could choose to become better informed, but gathering information is costly, either in the sense of actually the literal undertaking to get the information is costly, or the individual doesn't want to pursue the behavioral pattern that's going to have to result from changing their mind having learned the new information. Right? Sometimes we don't want to revise our beliefs. We don't want to seek out information because it's going to cause us to behave differently. Maybe we feel guilty if we don't or something like that. This all falls under the umbrella of rational ignorance, whereby individuals or decision makers could become better informed, but they make a deliberate choice not to. This loops back to our basic assumption that people are selfish and rational, and maybe, at least in the short run, it could appear, at least to the decision maker themselves, it's in their own best interest not to become informed.